Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this special meeting of the Dieppe City Council on this June the 24th, 2020. Considering the date, June the 24th, I know we have several citizens or Quebecers. We'll wish them a good Saint-Jean-Baptiste. And without further delay, let's call the meeting to order. Confirmation of quorum by the clerk. Everyone is present. And any conflict of interest to be declared? None reported. So we'll continue. Adoption of the agenda moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Cormier, that we adopt the agenda. Any question? No question? All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. The agenda is adopted as presented. Obviously, as you know, there is only really one item to be discussed, and we'll go at it immediately. As we do it, the reading of the resolution as such, and then I've been told there might be question. Presented by Mr. Burke. Mr. Burke, please, if you would proceed with your presentation. Good evening, Your Worship, councillors. Tonight, we will talk about the plan to reopen the Aquatic Center and the Arthur G. Leblanc Center. We had to close them because of the COVID events. I will present the phases that we are proposing to reopen these two. The phases were developed in consultation with our emergency coordinator and public health, with the information we received from them and also from the Red Cross, where mostly for the Aquatic Center, we receive on a regular basis some update. And in the last days, we receive more information. I will present the headline. I'm not on the screen. What's happening? It's been a while. I will present the headline for the phase to reopen, and then the managers for the user, Mr. Dafos, will present some statistics that we have to present. And Stefan Theriot, our finance director, the treasurer, will talk about the financial aspect, and we'll be there to try and answer your question. So the Aquatic Center, we talk about 5 phases if we include the present phase. At the present time, before we open the building, we have to prepare an operational plan that will explain how we manage the situation of the COVID-19 and to make sure that we meet the guidelines, the requirements from public health. The difference between the Aquatic Center and other installation, a lot of installation, whether it's a baseball field or soccer field or the arena, the groups that use them must present an operational plan according to the guideline that they've received, directive they've received from their provincial association jointly with public health. We have a role to play, but it's a share role as to the control that is documented if there should be any situation where we would have to make research for the users. But for the Aquatic Center, we have a few clients, like the swimming team. Blue and Rose will be ready to start. They'll have to present a plan. The Aquatic Center, we are ultimately responsible for each person that entered the building. We have to control and everything else as to the use of that building. So The plan was presented to our emergency coordinator. It is satisfactory. It was even perfect, excellent. We describe a very good plan, and at the present time, we have to train the employees in order to eventually open it. What we have to do, because the roles and responsibilities, the safeguard, certain things change as to the way that we do the safety work if it should happen. And inside the center, there's a whole trafficking and the signage that has to be in place before we open the center. We're doing that presently, and we are working on the programming where we'll present some gradual evolution to adapt to that aspect of it. And the clients also, as for the Aquatic Center, and like any other installation building, we use the 16 meters because we talk about 2 meters on the front and the back on each side. That's the calculation we've been using, which make it that we are limited with the number of persons that can be inside the center. If we were to reduce by half that figure for the distanciation, I believe we could probably have 40 or 50% in the water, or maybe 100 instead of 50. But the biggest challenge in the Aquatic Center is the balance. We're limited to 26 now. The room, the dressing room, you see. To meet here, look at yourself. We've had to make changes so you could meet in this room. The same situation apply with the facilities. What we're proposing on July the 6th, we would like to start on July the 6th. It would be the day of the week from Monday to Friday with the same length. That's our members and those who come, the seniors. We can give figures later on. And we talk the municipality not far from here have the same reality as us. The centers are slightly smaller, and we would give ourselves 3 to 4 weeks before we go to the next phase. I'm repeating myself. A question of adapting ourselves to this new reality. Now, should we be well prepared and the people also, nothing stop us from going ahead with each phase or to back up if we think that's the thing to do. So this is a plan. Afterwards, at the beginning of August, we're still during the week, we would offer some programming, 2 nights per week. We continue with the same land. That's the one that is the easiest to control, but we can reserve some lane and offer more sessions. The swimming lane, we could start some private courses. That is already an activity that was quite popular. We could start slowly but surely, and could increase the number of sessions that we offer. And then the aquafarm, which is an activity it's an activity that we could start by the beginning of August, and by September we talk about continuing. But then we're 7 days a week. We add Saturday and Sunday and 2 nights. It's possible that we would add a 3rd night, private courses. I continue. The collective or group swimming course, we're starting to have information from the Red Cross that would allow us to offer courses at 50% of the number that would be allowed in a swimming course. But it's the reality of each swimming center is different. There are courses that would be advantageous for us to offer, and so we are looking at it because we just received the information last Friday. And also then we could continue the aquafarm and the rental for private groups by September. Afterwards, we call it a phase, but finally is the return to normal. It'll be a while. It's up to say between 4 and 5 we can't add a program, some programming once we're at ease and we have, if we receive information, if ever there's some problem with the health or Red Cross. That's the level for Aquatic Center. As for the Arthurgie Leblanc Center, the first phase, that's the same principle, the operational plan. What we have the user groups that must present some plans. We received some excellent plans. The groups really had some good information from their association, but we're waiting for more. We're waiting some for the minor groups. We have yet to receive something. They're waiting. They're working on it, but they're waiting for their from their provincial association. So as we receive the plans, we adjust ourselves accordingly. We have the traffic plan, the signage, and so on and so forth. The Saint-Anselme surface a group that wanted to open on July the 13th with some ice. It's a group associated with that group. Pool Ocean Hockey associated with Pete's East Coast Ice. They offer some training outside the ice, off ice. For us, it's a rental, not net, but we already have someone who's there to do maintenance. So the activities are going on inside the time that we already have somebody hired there. So it would make it cheaper, and they're already on location for the Saint-Anselme surface, but they're on the cement floor. It wouldn't cause any more problem than usual. On July the 13th, if we have the agreement from council, we would prepare the ice for July the 13th with East Coast ice. A few weeks later, Lamdor. These are all schools, private schools with East Coast, and we have that on. Nadia can quickly explain in a few minutes. We look at their plan to see how many people were involved, how many in the building, how many hours were involved, and with these two groups for that period. I don't have the data from last year. We know it's more rental than last year for that period, but we're still waiting for information insurance-wise. So there's something we don't have it. But these are other opportunities to allow us to have that activity. The next steps are yet to be confirmed with the groups of minor hockey and I get for the fall. And Nadia is continuously or regularly in contact with these people, in discussion with them, and the information are yet to come. We have a few statistics. I'll let Nadia do an overview with the statistics, and then Stefan will come to talk about finance, and then we'll answer your question. Thank you for your attention. Maybe to hurry things up and not to come back to the back, is there anyone that would have question? If so, ask them now, and then we can go to the question as we go along, rather than to come back from time to time. Councillor Ella, thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Burke, sorry, the camera and the operational plan. It's my comment. I think all the participants that come in our facilities, our arena, our park, our trail, and the Aquatic Center are our responsibilities. The Aquatic Center is not our responsibility when minor hockey uses it. Those who use our facilities are our responsibilities, and we have to take care of them. We are the watchdog for the community. So as for the operational plan, I understand the Aquatic Center we do it. But for the arenas, why would it not be us that would prepare the operational plan for the arena? Councillor Alain, the plan for the building, we do it. We do it. Inside the plan, we have guidelines to follow, but the users have responsibilities as for their clients. Inside the plan, we will determine if we have access to all the washrooms. We have to do some calculation, and they will have a plan as to how they will manage their members, their people inside the plan. So we determined that 50 persons are allowed inside the building. They have to figure if it's 50 persons on ice, spectators, but we have a responsibility, a common one. We have to guarantee the control. But for them, within their plan and their operation, they have also a responsibility. But ultimately, they have a the responsibility comes to the city. And if we do the Aquatic Center, wouldn't it be easier? It seems pickup hockey comes at the end. Would it not be easier for us, for the pickup hockey to do with the pickup hockey? It's not organized. I'd like to know what is the percentage of people that uses our arena that are only pickup people. Is it not easier to give us an overview of what is happening immediately? Or are the regulations evolving? Well, they're evolving because the games cannot be played right now. It doesn't mean 5 or 6 weeks it will not be allowed. So for us, it's the same thing for the tenants that would start on July the 13th. They don't start with games. They start with skill development and training, and they will follow phases as soon as we receive word from the province, then from Hockey New-Brunswick, sorry. Then we can discuss with them the part on the ice. If the sport requires some changes, it's up to the clients to make sure that those changes are followed. As for the progressive return, phase 2, phase 3, is there a phase 3 for arenas, or do we go directly to phase 3? Why wouldn't we go to phase 3 immediately for the Aquatic Center? Well, the Aquatic Center, the big thing is the training of all our staff, our lifeguard, and the training is being given now, but we have to live it, the Aquatic Center with, because what we're proposing in our plan is the people come with the swimsuit, and they change on the side of the swimming pool, and the shower we have to direct the people, and after their session they can use the locker room, but we have to control that traffic, and once we're at ease with the operation, we can move to another phase. So it's a question of being at ease and comfortable with the different stages. Question I'd like to add, Mr. Ayla, that Aquatic Center, they're young students. For the majority of our maintenance people for the first phase, we have 9 who will, we hope, they'll start to train. But all the programs are 100% managed by our young people. We have to make sure they're ready. Their office is small to accommodate them. So the majority of all the swimming pools, everything that was followed by the coordinator of the aquatic activities, all the recommendations were done phase by phase. So each sport lived different things, different aspects. To mention the hockey team, well trained for all the sports, whether it's sports, softball. They've had plans We're there to help all the groups. I'm there as a support. I think it's important to say. So I support them. I've developed an operational plan for the arena, one for the Aquatic Center, and these operational plan will be given to all our clients, customers, to guide them. And I have Eduardo, who is responsible for operation. We want to structure and help all the groups. A senior group, they're not used to preparing these plans. We want to make sure that if something have to be done for a group, we have a large number of groups have to prepare. It's up to them to draft their plan. We read them over. We work it out with them before it's presented. So before it's approved. Thank you. So you just said phase 2, there's 9 students. How many students in phase 3 at the Aquatic Center? They're all students who are not with us now. That's why phase 2 will have 9 students, and we've had the new figures for this fall. That's right. So the statistics that we offered is with the full picture. The program that is there, other than the swimming courses, the team that is there start at very reduced hours, so their hours will increase. Everything is planned in the figures. From Stefan tell you how many students? About 13 once we're in full operation, but not all at 35 hours per week. Mr. also send us a plan. I'll present it. If we could limit ourselves to the question, the statistics will be presented. I'm sorry, I'm not in finance. Statistics, I have not presented them, but the statistics is this fall. Yes, once we're fully open and we've gone through the different phases. All right. I'll ask a question now. Public bath. It's one of the most popular. Mr. Burke, you've indicated that the public bath, we don't know how to manage that. Is that it? We know how to how to manage it. We're limited with the number of persons we can receive at one time, at the same time. But our plan, foresee the way we'll manage it, and the figures mentioned here are all forecast. It's nothing formal. It's not taken from last year. Mrs. Danfos could present. We have the pre-COVID figures. That was January to April when we stopped everything. And she could do a link between what we expect in the fall. Because, other questions? Monsieur Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Burke, you mentioned at the beginning when you talk about the facility Aquatic Center, there was only 27 persons who could go in. You talk 27 persons in the building or in the water? In the locker room, that's a small one. We can have people at the reception, and there can be a circulation, but the figures for each basin, I don't remember. 27 person was for what? Is that the total? Yeah? Okay. In all, 27 person for the whole. In the 3 basin in the water, we can receive 80 person at one given time. But it's not the same operation that we have. We put the switch on and 80 person will go to reception, will go in the changing room because we're limited to 26. That's why it's almost impossible to have more people than what your change room allow you. Well, we could have more. It's a question of coordination with a schedule, with a program, and we're studying the possibility. But immediately, the question, we have to document each person that goes in the center. Of course, to start, I know I'm repeating myself for the training, but we document, people reserve their lane, and when we go with public bath later on, then we have public bath that will go over 100 persons. We have to see how we'll manage it. That's why there's a transition involved. Mr. Boutier, thank you, Your Worship. Some questions have been answered, but I don't know. Why phase two? Why would we not go Saturday and Sunday, since we're limiting only the day, and those who work will not have access to our swimming pool unless we go at 6 in the morning? It's a good question. It's a good question. Presently, we have a lot of employees at the Aquatic Center because we closed them and they work in the facility sector. We did not hire people. We reassigned people. So, with the reopening of sport property, it hit us much faster than we expected. We're there to help them. We do a transition by bringing them back to the Aquatic Center. So, of course, to go from Monday to Friday, we have a better capacity of receiving the people, of documenting, of making sure of the property. But after a few weeks that we're open, the whole staff will come back and give us more responsibility. It's a question of transition. We have a few positions have been posted. It's possible we would have Saturday and Sunday at the second or third week, but not immediately. That's how we're developing it. That's it. That's all for me. Mr. Sergeant, thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Burke, I have three small points. The people who come, who will ask to come, will you have a rotation to alternate, satisfy all the people who want to come? Imagine that many persons will want to come. It won't always be the same people that will have the privilege. I will ask Nadia because I know we've talked about it, but for the schedule as such, we are developing it. All the reservations are done online or by phone. We're limited to the number of time they can come per week. Presently, some customers are swimming. We're swimming 5 times a week. Previously, some will limit themselves at 3, and will evolve the request if there's a room for everybody to swim every day, as they were doing it before. They had a certain routine. We'll go slowly to make sure that we have room for all the requests, to make sure that the hours will grow to meet the same hours we had before. Well, the morning of swimming from 6:30, 10 o'clock, if we had 30 persons, it was an excellent previously, and we can accommodate that or more at the present time with our form. We have the 6 colors, the 6 lanes plus the 2 lanes. We have some young people who do some training, and we don't want to disappoint them with waiting lists. Yes, well, we certainly don't want to disappoint our public. But the other things that struck me, Mr. Burke, is the way that we do some savings. Could you clarify what you said about lifeguard? I'm not an expert, but say RCR compression only, whatever that means. So that's where there's other changes, but Nadia works in it every day. An example, my colleague Jose, with all the information for Red Cross, they've offered a lot of information last month to see how it works. whether it's the towing, the way they work as a team also. So usually the lifeguard were quick to jump in the water. Now they say they should wait until they've maximized the use of their buoy. If somebody is in distress or drowning, they will jump. But we have to adjust to really assure the savings. The Red Cross have already given information according to our need. Whether it's the Red Cross, the Lifeguard Association, these are two, and the National Association. Fantastic. Another thing, we have a protocol to follow. It's fine. We are responsible for the structures. I believe in that. There's only one other thing. Can we possibly be sued if they say it's your fault if I caught the COVID-19? Is that a possibility? Could we be sued for that? I can't answer you. I can give an element of answer. It's a matter of taking all the possible action to eliminate these elements if we're able to show that we did our due diligence. We took all the precaution, everything. We've put some signs, and so on and so forth. And staff on location will train the staff. We should not be sued or taken to court. Thank you, Mr. Simar. Thank you very much, Mr. Burke. And Nadia also, thank you. Mr. Thibodeau. Thank you, Worship. I find that you presented a very good plan, but if I understand correctly, at first you have to have your plan approved by the coordinator, the COVID, and by public health. Well, our plan follows the guideline from public health and approved by our coordinator. Okay. He attends with EMO, New-Brunswick Emergency Measures Organization. So since you are making that presentation, we have the statistics. We will have the financial data. I ask myself if we, as a council, if we should go in the kitchen or if we should not look at the plan and vote on it. We can have questions, but the technical question, it seems, have been dealt with by the employees. Your Worship, I'm asking the question. Well, sometimes to ask a question is to answer it, the old saying. But of course, it's a question of, in part, it's a question of trust towards our employees. Trust in the system. It's not only our employees, the whole system was put together by all the organization. Well, to ask the question is to answer it, but we want to be as transparent as possible. We could also say we've given a mandate to our management. We give them to live within the budget that was approved by the council. It would be easy to say that. But we must also consider that reality has changed. So I think it's important to review at what stage we have to go to the kitchen. You will decide individually if you want to stir the soup or if you want to eat it. Well, at the end, we have the responsibility of making sure the employees follow the guidelines, the safety guidelines. Yes, of course, we have questions to ask, but it seems we have to make sure that their plan will respect the guidelines, because the standards for swimming pool were prepared by public safety, public health. Well, there's not too many standards that were given by the province for each facilities individually. One of the most important positions given by the province is the distanciation and to respect it. And also the whole disinfecting that must be done. Mike Cormier, with all the long hours he's put in the emergency committee, as you know, review our operational plan with the arena. Everything is taken care of. Everything is considered with no cutback, no reduction. There's not too much specificity, the capacity. 5 years were there, but we used the 16 square meters, and by talking with different communities, everybody has different realities, and what we're doing here may be different than what Fredericton is doing in their swimming pool. There's no laws, there's no act. We take pieces from different sources, from the Lifeguard Association and the Red Cross, to help us to prepare our plan. And thanks to Macomier, one is one way. They want to limit the one way. Everything, a lot of things have been limited. If the meeting would give me, I'd be happy to give it to you. We'd like to evolve and start with it. But if you want more information, you're welcome to come and I'll show it to you. That's what I wanted to talk. The distanciation, I think, is the cleaning, the cleansing. Of course, they don't have anything precise because all the swimming pools don't have the same configuration. So we have to make them ourselves, but by respecting the distanciation criteria and the cleaning and everything else. That's all, Your Worship. Thank you. Shada, to answer Councillor Thibodeau, the reason we're here today to discuss, because it's a question that will affect everybody in the world. Over 2,000 people have COVID. The manager came to see us and asked the council for support. And I found that the support should be made public, discussed in public, and the plan that was prepared. I'm not questioning at no time in my email. You would have make more confidence in the staff than the people sitting around table. But it's my administrator, a manager, who came to see us for our support, and that's why we're here to ask questions. And I hope that will take 1 or 2 more hours. We've had increase in salary. We'll show the people in Dieppe that we can't talk for them. The mayor said it, a discussion. It's free. And we have discussion. At the end of the day, I think it's important for the people of Dieppe to know what is happening in Dieppe. There are things that Mr. Burke and Ms. Duffus just told me that I didn't know. I'm a citizen, but I didn't know. If I'm learning and I do the exercise, I think it's a good exercise to do, and that's why we're here. I totally agree with you. To have a plan, go in the weeds, well, it's not my objective. But it's a question of the time. I'm here to protect my manager. My manager asked us for our help. Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mr. Brideau. Thank you, Worship. One question following what Councillor Arsenault mentioned. Question of responsibility towards COVID. I'd like to know, when our employees arrive on location to work, did we take the measure to prepare them? Yes? That's what I want to know. Well, the virus can go from one person to another and everything else. So all our employees, there is a checkup that is being done in the morning, a passive one, with the question that the people have to ask or answer, and we have instruction at what time is the wearing of a mask compulsory, and That information has to be applied every day, even when I go to work, even when I change building. They ask me, we have to apply the same thing. Thank you. If there's no other questions, we'll continue with the process and the report that was submitted to the members of council. Thank you. Good evening. I said good night, but good night, everyone. Thank you for receiving us to present the statistics, what is happening at the Aquatic Center. We'll start with the meeting. We thought it was important to present the statistics, where we're at with our users and the plans that we have received and the one from Aquatic Center. Maybe it would be to compare with the past and what it represents now. Here on the screen, we see our tenants will be there until August. The preliminary plans, we work with all the youth groups that are preparing their plans. I've had a meeting 2 weeks ago. We feel that the activities will continue. They have an interest to continue in the fall. So presently we have East Coast Ice, which fans on ice with Pro Evolution Hockey. The old age club that always used in the summer, so that will start in early in August, and the camp with the minor hockey association that will rent in August, and protect goaltending, the people who will organize these sessions. So all the rentals that we had before COVID are still there. So the use of the arena is used, and it's going very well. You see the number of hours per week that they use it, and the number of registration that has been received for each group. So depending on each group, the variants of the group that use the ice are there. It's slightly different than a swimming pool. It takes one tenant, and the ice is sold. And the swimming pool, well, each individual have to come see us. Here we've prepared pre-COVID once the implementation phases are completed. So certainly for the land swimming, it was 19 blocks before COVID that we were offering, with 47 hours that were at the program. The public swimming, there's a lot of unknown, so I've put it for pre-COVID. We had public swimming 11 hours a day, and with our group, especially Saturday and Sunday, it was around $475 per week for the public. The preschool, the aquafarm are there, and a lot of figures of aquafarm, very well known. We'll start with 6, the whole logistic of change room, and we hope to go as close to pre-COVID as possible while we guarantee the distanciation. And with the 950 clients, 18 hours, we'll be able to offer 18 hours to operate Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday in the fall, and we can offer the swimming courses. We had some new information. The information is coming in every day on what is happening. It was not developed earlier, so we continue to remain informed. The capacity, instead of being 6 per course, it's 3, and those who were 8 are down to 4, so it's 50% capacity. The monitor are not in the water anymore with the children. We have to manipulate them, teach them, give them techniques. Everything is happening outside the water. There's a different approach. We ask the brothers and sisters or the parents to accompany them. So these are things that we are developing, the imagination, all kinds of things, so we continue to come out of the aquatic. So for private courses, it's something that can continue. CNBO came to see us. He was impressed with the plan we have. When we say that we have in place, we can put some photographs, the signage, the flow of the building. very impressed and interested in renting from us. There's different regulations with the swimming team that come from NB Swim Canada that came recently, and once their provincial association come out with a plan, it assures a club to come swim. Ville 2 weeks ago didn't have any interest to swim. They develop a plan, swimming B, and they will come. So these are excellent news. It's an important tenant, and some young people are very good, and we're happy to be able, hoping to offer them the Aquatic Center to continue the training. That is continuing and will be the same rental as they were having before once we're in our full phases. And where will be this summer? So I've compared a little bit earlier, but we'll start with 12 blocks for land swimming and preschool, the same as we had before. Preconform is the numbers are slightly lower in the number of classes, but we'll continue to innovate and to find the things. That's our job, to continue to increase the figures. And the swimming courses, as you can see, it's about 50% of the number of youth that would follow the courses, the swimming courses, and that's what we're aiming, while hoping that distanciation will be imagined and will continue to innovate and to continue to be at ease to open the Aquatic Center. Any question for the statistics part of it? Question? Monsieur? The figures have changed since last week, so 10% per hour will increase. It seems that it will hit 27.30, maybe more. The 10 per hour really is 8 per hour will continue. It's in our block for this summer. There's already, we followed a webinar with Canadian Parks Association. It was specific for the opening of Aquatic Center, and there were some excellent guests. One for safety, swimming, and once you come to 3 meters, and they calculate between one and at the bottom of the swimming pool and the other one. But I started seeing we can have ways of distancing the people and stopping the people before the other one is against the wall. So it's a new way of swimming, and we can't all be against the wall and arrive on time. And it's coming out recently. The information changes every week, you're right. And they operate the right way, and we're on it all the time, and to try and see what is happening in the world, what the other provinces are doing. Some are ahead of us, and New-Brunswick, we're happy to be where we're at today at this super. It's nice to hear that. Just to say how the evolution of insurance changed between last week and today. Thank you. Congratulations. Now, as for the projection for the future, I can see there is a reduction of income for the swimming because of this summer, and this fall it will increase again. But as for the arena, at 60%, do you see the calls that there will be a reduction in the calls to use it? My finance will be conservative with the 60%. My finance, not conservative, cautious, is going to be cautious. But to tell you, not conservative. Sorry. But, well, we already received new calls and new things that are happening. CARA Association is the National Association for Legadet. We don't know what to do, how to do it. Do we approve it or don't we approve it? We're very vigilant before we talk with our group. With the information that came out from CARA, it evolved our way of thinking, and we encourage the people to innovate and to check the plans. There's a great interest, and they will want to continue and to operate. And as I said earlier, when our young group, I've had meeting with them, they work and they have an interest. There's a great interest in minor hockey. Do they need help more or what? There's a big group, a community group. It's quite big, and do they need help? Hockey New-Brunswick, I'm in contact with the leadership of Hockey NBA. Everybody was wondering when their document was coming out. It will be coming out in mid-July. Minor hockey is lucky to have people who can help them out, but in the logistic, as East Coast, not East Coast, but those are other side. It's a logistic more to open and operate. It's someone who receives them at the door to make sure the parents don't come in. There's a lot of logistic, make sure they wash their hands. A lot of logistic, instead of being on the ice teaching, they have to plan for volunteer, and minor hockey are very good at recruiting with Eduardo. We're continuously with George and Cristal to make sure they have everything they need, because yes, there are a lot of people, and I get fast skating, we support them all. Thank you, Your Worship. Monsieur Thibodeau, thank you, Your Worship. Ms. Davros, I know you have all kinds of group. I get minor hockey, golden skate, fast skating, and a day group. Do you have to cut back in the hours for each group? You give priorities to a certain group? At the beginning, we thought we had to have half an hour, 50 instead of 15 minutes before between each group. Now we look not at half an hour like elsewhere did it. The process, the flow of everything that is happening is doing well to receive a group before the second group. I have all my operation on the server. If that's what we need tonight, I'll present it to you, but there is a way of receiving each group, and make sure that when the group one is on the ice, when they leave, group two is separate. Everything has to roll. In early July will be the first group to try it. Our plan is we develop it, and we went through with our superintendent, and we did with Mr. Derek Cormier, who's the operator of that group, and I think it will be good. Thank you. Madame Le Boutier. Thank you, Your Worship. A question. Considering the question that has to do with all the changes that are forthcoming in, can we, if I take the Aquatic Center and the arenas, because for me, it's two different services, two different clientele or customers, to have access to additional fund to manage, would it help you? Would it make it easier, the Aquatic Center, a faster integration to bring more people? Let's take the arena. Do you have the resources and the necessary funds at the present time to serve the number of people that you wish to have? Well, my director explained, we have a lack of resource in our team, but some positions have been posted. We're trying to fill them. And for the swimming pool, for us to open on the weekend, it's the number of hours of operation. For the arena, For the cleaning, it's all calculation that a team, and it is being considered. So once there with the new hiring, I've been told we won't have any problem, but our association, it will be hard on the volunteer. So there may be some ideas that'll be forthcoming. I don't have any reception to control every person. We have to continue tracing, even with Fridays, to say that 5 years was the tracing was not lighting up. We have to trace everybody that comes in our building. Do we take it on our volunteer or as a municipality? I don't have resources, so financial resources. If I look at what was done at Fourplex, they had to buy a lot of things to adapt. It's four completely different. There's four ice, and they must have had additional expenses. They're already on the ice, and that where my question is coming from. Do they have a limit to be able to effectively operate and to be innovative in our approach? I don't think so. Now, for the fourplex, already had their eyes before we opened in Dieppe to open on July the 13th. We're not late. We'll be able to open and operate as we did before. Thank you. Raymond had managed the staff at the arena. I don't know if Raymond had anything to add, but no other question. We continue with the presentation. Finance. Mr. Caution. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. If I jump directly at the impact with the Aquatic Center and the ice service, that's what I'm presenting here. It's in a condensed mode. I've removed the column to be able to make the figures readable. But the column that I remove are the addition or subtraction for each one. We can do them as we get along. So when we look at the Aquatic Center to try and see as for the Aquatic Center, when we start the year, we start with a deficit of about $1 million. We have 625,000 income with 1.6 million. We have a deficit of $1 million that is filled with the general budget with the property tax. When I came to the council around April to present at that time, if we close our facilities until the end of the year, which is the middle column, we had a deficit of 930,000. We improved the picture somewhat, essentially because of the savings that were greater than the income we were losing. When I talk about economy, I'm talking about the student position, the subcontractors, and the energy savings that we were having by closing the building. Now, we find ourselves on the green column. The forecast, now that we're opening the swimming pool, what does it mean? Yes? Here I'm talking about 30% revenue that will come back to the swimming pool. We open it at 30% income. Yes, it may be a figure, as we said before, but 100% of expenditures that come back, that are coming back. So the picture, essentially, the deficit increased, and if we compare with the deficit of the beginning of the year, it's almost kif. We're talking about $40,000 to $45,000. But if the forecast was 30%, but we reach 40 or even 50%, then there's no deficit. We practically come back to the deficit that we had planned at the beginning, at the outset. It's the same thing for the 4 rice. It's funny to say 4 rice because we'll have 4 rice as of September or October. So the estimated deficit at the beginning of the year was $965,000, close to $1 million, about the same as the swimming pool. However, with our forecast that I had in April concerning the 3 ice at that time, our deficit was increasing by $100,000. So the loss of revenue was greater than the savings of $100,000. And during the opening, if we open some arena, we're a deficit of $1.1 million compared to the $965,000, so approximately $178,000 deficit. We have to say also, this is where the 65 that we were talking come into the picture. I estimate 60% the income, the revenues that will come back to the city because we opened 4 ice. Practically 100% of the expenditures. That scenario is not viable or realistic, if you wish. If we only have 60% of revenues or 60% rental of the ice, we won't open the 4 ice. It'll be 1 ice at a time until one is complete, then we'll open the second one. So there will probably be additional savings. It's not indicated, but that's the worst picture. I hope that it will improve with time. So we talk about 40,000 with the Aquatic Center, 178,000. I want to make a parallel, and then I'll go to the question. As for the total budget of the city, we can see the budget is 0 for the year. The blue column was in April when I came to present. At that time, we were planning a surplus of $972,000 with the closing of all the facilities, including the city hall and the ice surface and aquatic and everything. But following the opening of all these buildings, we still foresee 500 surplus. We're in a relatively good position budget-wise. The opening of the installation to make such that we will create a deficit, but we are in a good position overall for the city. That's what I wanted to tell you. Question from the councillors. Michelle? Stefan just answered the question on the arenas. Thank you. It was a big question. If we have 60% of use and 100% expenses. So, as for the park now, are we talking about the Rotary Park? Are we talking about the trail? Well, it's park, trail, playground, and so on and so forth. So it's the third table that I didn't show. But as for the park, yes, we come back to the budget, to the starting budget. There's no income from the park. It's a service we offer the population, which is financed by the property tax. So by closing these parks, the trails and everything else, we had a big savings with the students we were planning to hire and which we did not. So we come back to the same amount, 1.8 million deficit. Until now, if Mr. Burke can correct me, the only park that will be open is Rotary Park this year. That is open up to now. Is that it? Mr. Burke? The Rotary Park is open, but the pavilion as such will not be open at this time. We don't intend to open it at this time. We have room in the other building, so if the request was greater, we could reconsider it. But in the budget, public parks, it include our sports property. That one of the main reasons that we had to bring the students to prepare the soccer, baseball, and the support that is needed with these groups. Thank you. Mr. Snow. Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Terrio, I find it excellent, even encouraging. We're there to serve the public, so I think it's okay. One thing you mentioned, if I understood correctly, the 4 rides that we'll have in September probably will open one at a time according to the need. Is that it? Yes. Fantastic. Thank you. Got a question? No more questions? Thank you for the presentation. To read the resolution, Mr. Cormier, please. Thank you, Your Worship, that Council authorized the reopening of the Aquatic and Sports Center by July the 6th, 2020, and the Arthur G. LeBlanc Center on and after July 13. I so move. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Ayla. On the question. No question. All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. And this concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good night.